Hey, this is Matt Naas from Roach Koach, and you're listening to Discography Discussion.
His name is Matt. His name is Matt. And that's all that matters.
I'm not gonna lie, Matt, there's stuff on here that I can't unhear in this mindless self-indulgence.
It's great.
It's stamped in my brain in a bad way.
Star Wars. Well, I think I should lead with "You're welcome."
Right.
Star Wars.
Oh, I'm going from the hip on this one. Dan, you ready for this?
I'm not fucking ready.
And if you think Frankenstein girls are the only thing that matters, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe, that is Dan, that is Geoff, and that is Matt Naas from the Roach Koach podcast.
And Matters and Transmissions from the Dark Side. Just saying.
Pretty much everything Gabber Media does.
That is correct.
Almost.
We have two shows. Chris and Matt write a blockbuster. I am not involved with that one. And Fantasy Advice Bros. But GabberMedia.com. Let's get those plugs in early.
And often.
Plug them
Before
up.
everybody turns it off when I start talking about how much I love today's band.
Oh, my.
Dan is not ready for this.
And it's not in a tongue-in-cheek matter. It's seriously you love this band.
Yeah, my fandom is legit. I cannot apologize for it. I love them, and I completely understand why people do not.
And today's the day that Dan and Matt stop being friends.
I want to congratulate you early for picking one of the bands that Dan swore he would never talk about unless a guest wanted to talk about them.
Joe's asked me 5 times every time. I'm like, no. And after a while, the no started turning into no. Fuck you. I'm not doing it.
So here is the deal. Why I chose this band is you said December was going to be industrial month. I have a deep industrial past. But every band that I liked put out another 20 records from the time I stopped listening to them. So I was at first I was let's do 16 volt. I love 16 volt. That's one of my favorites. Let's do that. And then you were like, hey, Matt, they have 30 records.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. That's our wheelhouse, but you're a busy dude.
Yeah.
You've got 17 podcasts to record and edit.
A human child to take care of,
My brand new baby. Who's now 9 months old, which is insane.
Yeah, that is crazy, isn't it?
It's time. So then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do Hate Department because I don't like Hate Department. And then I wanted to do Frontline Assembly, but that was another one where there's 40 albums.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I'm like, you know what? I love Mindless Self Indulgence, and they're kind of industrial. So let's get down to it, boppers.
Oh, boy.
Well, before we get down to it with Matt Naas and Mindless Self Indulgence, I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, so if you have an Amazon Echo or a Google Home, you have no excuse. Ask it to play the latest episode of the Discography Discussion podcast, and it will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at discussmetal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening, and now Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
We love 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion. They make me feel good. They make Geoff feel good. They make Joe feel mediocre.
I'm listening to Mindless, so I feel very above mediocre right now.
Well, that is very great news. But no, seriously, guys, a good review helps us out more than you know. You see, podcasts are recommended to you by algorithms, and those algorithms look for things like total amount of downloads, so you guys are already a step ahead there. However, if you were to review our podcast, we would get recommended to people like yourself that have not heard the greatness of what we do every single week. It is literally the greatest free thing that you could do for us.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
I try to do that plug different every time.
And sometimes he just stops right in the middle of it, and I'm like, are you good?
Dude, I fucked up on John's podcast the other night. I was all like, we love 5-star reviews here on John's Untitled podcast.
Tell me that stays in. Tell me that stays in.
No, he cut that shit right out.
All right. And now Matt is going to tell us all about Roach Koach.
Roach Koach is a podcast that focuses on creating a new metal canon. It is hosted by Lauren Kozlowski and Jennifer Bloomer, with production and side comments by myself. Those two grew up loving nu metal. I was the one in the group who wanted nothing to do with it. And after 120 some odd episodes, we've all learned to love it together. So take a listen. You will be delighted by the albums that we do and the characters we create. Roach Koach on Gabber Media.
A family podcast.
So you're telling me it's
Hardly.
it's like a Clockwork Orange for you? Like it's just been like literally burned into your brain, so you have to like it?
The thing is, I think it's time away from the genre being big. When it was so big in 99, I wanted like nothing to do with it. But now it's like 20 years later and you're like, you know what? If I'm pissed off, break stuff's pretty good to lift weights too. So, you know, the vitriol goes out, the anger goes away, and you're just like, it's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fun cheese now.
The crazy thing is that we're at peak nostalgia for it. Like this record,
Right.
The records that we're listening to today, I know are rough. There's a lot of super questionable stuff in them. It is not PC, to say the least. It has a complete and total soft spot in my heart, and it is peak nostalgia for me. Because I remember the first time I heard this album, or the first time I heard Frankenstein Girls, because it was only when it was put on YouTube years later that I actually heard the first record. But I was in a record store and they were playing Frankenstein Girls, and it was like instantly, I was like, this is like Weird Al meets KMFDM in a blender, and I'm in. Like, it's goofy. It's really goofy. Sequencing, programming, all the stuff that I liked about industrial, with this really over-the-top frontman that I just was like, he's awesome. So yeah, it just hit me right. And that CD did not come out of the player the whole time that I was in. I think it came out in 2000, and I was listening to it almost nonstop, to the chagrin of my roommate Matt of Matters, who had to hear it through headphones. So he hates this band more than anybody in the world.
Yeah, I got at the time I was managing a Sam Goody, and I got to put it on a couple of times because it was in a college town. I wasn't in a regular Sam Goody in the mall, so I got to take some liberties. So that got put on, I think, all of like 2 times before I got complaints.
Yeah, I was listening to it in an indie. It was just a small Kalamazoo record store.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was what they were actually trying to replicate, was the nostalgia and the feel of a smaller, because I was in a strip mall in a tiny college town of, you know, like the college like outnumbered the population of the city like 4 or 5 to 1. That's what they were trying to go for, and they were that's right after Best Buy had bought them, and they were hoping to, you know, get their foot in the door because they realized that Sam Goody and malls was going to die.
Right.
Yeah, which ultimately it just died too fast and they couldn't turn it around. But man, I always had so much fun whenever I would find a band like this, just put it on, and with college kids, you know, they're like, "What the fuck is that? That's crazy." You know, so they love stuff.
That was me.
So they love stuff like this, and
but in a very conservative town, this is a store clearer. Like, if you want people to
Everybody
leave,
out.
you have 2 choices. Opera's number 1. You put on some opera, nearly everybody will leave. 2, a little MSI. Get them out of here.
If you want them to leave faster.
I always thought MSI sounded like Marilyn Manson on different drugs. It's like
Okay,
one guy was
I'll take
doing
that.
cocaine, the other guy did a shit ton of weed. They're programming and shit, and all of a sudden, one guy goes, "Yeah, this is great. It's really fast and awesome, and everybody's going to love it." The other one just slows down. It's like, "We're all stars now."
Oh,
I love every minute of it, though.
I'm not going to lie. I've spent a good portion of my life trying to avoid this band.
I get it.
Joe has spent a good portion of his life trying to ruin that. And I don't remember exactly what it was. It was some kind of live album that me and Joe got in a car that I wasn't driving, and I had to listen to this shit for like an hour, and it was like all their hits. So it was like 47 tracks in 33 minutes or something.
Yeah, that's them.
Yeah, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing here? I get why people think this is funny. I just don't get the joke. I'm very unsettled, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, I avoided listening to this band for most of the week, and I was like, oh fuck, it's Thursday night. So like on Thanksgiving, I crammed all of it.
Nothing makes you more thankful than a big plateful of MSI.
Oh my god. Apparently, like this morning, really early, I was like sleeping, and my wife's like, so what song is it where bitches really love you because they know that you can fuck? And I was like, oh my god, was I whimpering that in my sleep?
Oh shit.
And I was like, no,
This is worth it just for this moment.
Next question. Yeah, like I was. Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
I was
throughout the projects though.
I was shocked. I was appalled. I was entertained, and I vomited. I think at least once, which may have had more to do with the pie I was eating than anything else. But
you might have been listening to Tight.
Yeah, let's talk about Tight, guys. Let's
all right,
get this train rolling.
I had a ton of fucking fun listening to it. It was because it's like they you can tell that, you know, it's tongue in cheek, and then you're like, well, are they taking themselves seriously? You know, because they kind of put up, you know, different types of personas, you know, of where, you know, no, we're being serious about it. Like, no, there's no way you're being serious. This is too ridiculous. No, we're being serious about it.
The record that they put out before Tight, the one that's impossible to get and is only available on YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't listen to that one.
That's the one that, number one, feels the most regular, straight ahead industrial, and feels like the one that he's taking himself very seriously on. And then he's like, yeah, I'm not having much fun. Why don't I get my other friend and two girls, and we'll be the band, and we're just gonna wreck it.
Two girls, one with a very tiny drum set. Comically small.
The smallest. Yeah. Like a toy drum set.
It is just pads. She's just playing triggers.
Yep.
Kitty, I had, on Frankenstein Girls, which we'll get to after Tight. I loved Tight because I went back to it. You know, I got Frankenstein Girls, and they were like, we have this first record, Tight. I bought it. I ended up selling it on eBay when I was trying to get out of debt because I got like $80 for it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, you have to do it.
It went out of print. And
it's rare.
It was rare. Yeah, rare OOP. And Mindless was having like a moment there in like 2009. And it was right before streaming was like a thing, really. So like,
did you rip it first?
Oh, of course.
Okay, good.
No, believe you me, I wasn't waiting for Tighter to roll around. But there's something about a band that opens up with, let's see your little penis.
I'm like, oh my god, can they see me?
Instantly, like, they're letting you know that if they get heckled, they've got answers, baby. It's my little penis come to visit you today. Oh god, guys, it's not good, but boy, do I love it.
I had nightmares, like waking up in the early, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like kicking around and yelling at someone in my bed. My wife's like, "Is it that band that you were complaining about?" And I was like, which one? I mean, she's married to me, but like,
I think we figured it out. This is hell for Dan Terry.
This is it was unsettling. And don't get me wrong, it was 100% entertaining. I can't deny that. Like, I have ears, but
okay,
the thing
I'll
is,
take that.
Yeah, I mean, it was 100% entertaining. But I'm the kind of person that, like, if I'm walking down a dark hallway and you jump out and scare me, I have to go out. I have to go to the hospital. Like, okay. I'm like, holy shit. And, you know, I was complaining about it to my wife, and she's like, is this why you're having nightmares? Did the band, like, unsettle you to that point? And, like, even John Beatty, my partner in crime, you know, he goes, it's weird, though, because you listen to grindcore and you listen to, like, really heavy, scary shit all the time.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just that, like, if you took, like, Eiffel 65 or Daft Punk, but they had the songwriting structure of the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza, I don't know what's coming. It's like riding the fucking Superman ride at Six Flags. Like, you get all the way up to the top of the ride, and then you just hear you hear a loud creaking noise, and then people around you just start falling to the ground as fast as you're like, I don't know when they're gonna. I didn't know when they were gonna drop me. You know, like it felt like that because every second I'm listening to this, some shit was about to go down, and like, I mean, I'm talking about like a 30-minute period of this just constantly, like, just let's go in 19 different directions in 12 seconds. How do you like that shit, Dan?
Yeah, I love the fact that it's so spastic, though. I mean, I look at this the same way I do, like, say, Kentucky Fried Movie. It's just so like ridiculous and all over the place.
It's playing on your ADHD.
Yeah, I mean, like, I actually enjoy the absurdness of it. I think it's fun because of that. The fact that it's catchy on top of that is just like icing on the cake.
That was the thing that kept me there, because the thing with grindcore for me is that I always enjoy listening to some grindcore because it makes me laugh. Like I'm gonna say anal on your show.
That's okay.
But like that was a band that when we put in that CD, it'd be like Guy Lombardo, and then we would all laugh. We'd all laugh, and then we would take it out of the CD immediately because we were done. It was one song. We got what we needed out of it. And then someone would be like, it can't all be like that. And then we'd have to put it in and play another song and be like, yes, it is. Dude, the thing that keeps me coming back to this band is that their songs are little earworms. Like, they are catchy. They know how to write hooks. His voice, is a total love or hate, and I totally get it. But I love it. I love that he could go to such a crazy falsetto. And Tight's rundown. So we have to talk about the first problematic thing and bring the pain. He does not censor himself at all from dropping the N-bombs that Method Man says.
He has no right.
There is no reason why he shouldn't have censored themselves, because then on Take a Bite Out of Rhyme, they're censored. But they're not on Tight somehow. And even on Tornado, I believe, he drops the N-bomb. He drops the N-bomb like on 4 different songs on this record.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not just the cover. It's all over the place.
Yeah, it is all over the place. And I don't know why he got a pass, but he got a pass from me in '99. I'll tell you that. Got a pass from me in 2000. Does he get a pass now? Probably, because no one cares anymore. But
it's comically absurd. He's moving at a high rate of speed with this extremely technophile music. It's just raging. It's like a little kid walking down the street. You wonder for a second if he's got Tourette's.
Well, it's like you're snorting a pixie stick and then you threw an Atari in a blender.
Yeah.
Brian, I've got it, man. We're just going to go as fast as we can. I don't agree.
No, Marilyn Manson would never agree because, yeah, he wants you to feel it. Jimmy Urine wants to just get through it.
They get
I've
through
seen
it.
them live 4 or 5 times.
Did they play 45 songs when you saw them?
They played for 40 minutes, maybe, and ripped through at least 30 songs.
I think it was an hour set, and it was 45 songs.
Not a surprise.
With talking to the crowd between them.
I remember being sick that night.
You were definitely sick. It was me.
I wasn't sick. I just didn't want to go.
But you've seen them live?
Yes, in a high school gymnasium.
With Lindsay or with Vanessa YT?
I think it was Vanessa YT, but I don't remember for sure.
Because she's married to Jared Way now, which is very weird.
This album is very... Whoever gets to the end of the song first wins. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of all the positive shit that I can say, because we're not just a negative podcast. But it's like, And it's weird because, like, as John pointed out to me, on a regular basis, it's not that different from the shit that I like. He's like, if you replace the electronic shit with blast beats and the vocals with just indecipherable bullshit, you'd love it. You know? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. But for whatever reason, I found this record in particular to be the most unsettling thing that I've heard recently.
Oh God, I had so much fun. I was actually I was listening to this in Kohl's last night.
I was listening to this at work on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, I was in Kohl's in line, and people are looking at me, and I'm enjoying the crap out of it because it was a 2-hour wait to check out. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'm just gonna put some headphones in, and I'm gonna listen to tight. And people around me are just like, what the fuck is that guy on? I'm high on life, baby.
This is how I do now. This is who I am.
This is me doing what I do.
I had so much fun listening to this discography, much to Dan's chagrin. I had so much fun. It was ridiculous. Have you ever seen the movie Crank with Jason Statham?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is the soundtrack to Crank.
Yeah,
it's not.
That's what was going through my head the whole time I'm listening to this, because, I'd only listened to Frankenstein. I hadn't heard anything else. And it was that's 20 years ago or 18 years ago, the last time I actually really checked him out. I'm like going back, I'm like, holy shit, it's all like this. This is fucking fantastic.
That in lies their Achilles heel, is that it is all like this.
All of it.
It's all about perspective, though. Like, I had a blast.
I'm glad, because I feel like Dan will never talk to me again.
It was so ridiculous, so over the top. I had so much fun. Because that's, like I said, I just kept thinking about like the crazy movies I love, and I'm like, God, all of these songs could like be put in all of those fucking movies, and I would eat it up.
What's crazy is Jimmy did do some video game stuff. He did Lollipop Chainsaw, which
yeah,
he did.
Yeah, so he did the music, some of the music for that, and I think he's been in a couple other things, which fits 100%. Like, it is crazy video game music, but it's not as like intricate as something like Anamanaguchi, where you're like, I'm good.
Can we take a second to talk about the hidden song? Is it just me, or was he making fun of Adam Sandler's comedy albums? Like, really obviously? Because holy fuck.
I love it. Like, whenever they just play a guitar and he's just like, I see it's free like a birdie.
And it's like, but I'm offended a little bit because, like, he's clearly obvious. He's clearly making fun of somebody that has problems. I mean, and it's hilarious, but it's like, that's not cool. Like, I mean,
no, I think that's the reason why it's cool. I mean, like,
of course you fucking do.
There's nothing fucking off limits. That's what makes it great. It's like equal opportunity to everything. That's what I love about it.
It's the South Park effect.
Yes, exactly, because I love South Park as well.
And the number one target of MSI is MSI.
And that makes it even better. The fact that you can make fun of yourself and people can enjoy it.
They walk a very difficult line to walk, where they do have a self-awareness of, on streaming. So I'm jumping to Frankenstein Girls here, but first track on Frankenstein Girls, which isn't on streaming, which I believe is just called A, because the fucking record's in alphabetical order for a reason that no one could understand, is Jimmy Pop, that is Bloodhound Gang, Jimmy Urine yelling at the audience. And he's like, you guys, man, you got to get organized. When I say we, you say suck. We suck. Yep. And like they did that, and was like that setup of, kind of the earlier conversation, I don't think this band takes itself as seriously as other bands do that make this type of music. Because going to industrial shows, oh my God, what a mope fest. Just like, I'm just going to look at my DX7 and I'm going to hope that my TR-808 works. And just like the worst, just like get me out of here. And here was this band where they were like, yep, we put everything on DAT. And then we put guitar, bass, and drums on it. And we just party. We just have a good time.
I didn't win the speed contest last night, but tonight I'm going to fucking win.
I'm going to finish first, I promise.
Yeah. Oh, that's an even better joke.
Well, he is a professional.
Here we go.
Oh, my God. Yeah, the first track that I heard on this album was called Backmask.
Yep.
Which is just, another... I would say it's a fucked up song, but then like Bitches is right after that. So like it's
Bitches is so fucking good.
Like and it's all a fucking roller coaster to hell after that. I mean like it's fuck man. Like and I couldn't get Bitches out of my head, and I apparently was singing it in my sleep, which is terrible. Like terrible. Like because like dude, my 3-year-old daughter had got scared in the middle of the night and like got up in our bed and was sleeping with us, and I'm fucking laying there. You know, like my wife's on one side of the bed, the kid's in the dead center, and I'm like laying on my side of the bed, like singing Bitches in my sleep, and it's like, fuck, yeah, I was like, bitches, let me because they know that I can fuck, like it was just, not cool.
Not cool.
Not cool at all.
Well, that takes away any possible joke I could make about I'm Your Problem Now.
Yeah. I liked this album more than I liked the first album.
It's much more cohesive. The production is better. It sounds better. And these are punk songs with an industrial hook.
Yeah.
Like it has this. The reason I fell in love with industrial is because I grew up with synth pop and my brother being so into Depeche Mode and New Order that I couldn't escape it. And then it was like 9 Inch Nails happened in '89 and it was like, oh my God, this exists. And then it was like, oh, and there's Ministry, and there's Skinny Puppy, and there's all these bands that do this. This is perfect. But I've always kind of been me, like if I were to put on fishnet arms and wear a black skirt and go and look like a Cenobite in a goth club, it would be so inauthentic. I can like the music, and I did like the music, and I went to the shows, but I was never a goth kid. I was never and I never looked like, a glow stick raver, in the industrial electronic dance sense. So this band felt like Weird Outcast to me, and I was like, perfect. That's another reason I always like this band. So it is very personal because, I think sometimes, there's more N-bombs in this album.
Yeah.
Straight up, the very, very pejorative retard is thrown around with much aplomb in this record and the next record.
Yeah, I was going to say Glee. With much glee.
With Glee, yeah. It is not without its problems.
It's almost like, we know what kind of band we are. Mm-hmm. We're going to have fun with the fact that we get to say shit that nobody else gets to because we get to get away with it.
Did they get away with it, though?
Oh, totally.
100%.
I guess they did. It was a different time, but I mean, fuck, man. Like,
have you
keep
ever
in mind, I
seen
listen to all of
Mindless
these.
Self Indulgence get called out for the shit they say on their albums?
I listened to all of these last night. So, like, you have to understand.
You did yourself a disservice. You should have done at least one a day.
Here's a peek behind the curtain, kids. I listened to all these last night with 2018 ears, and it was bad.
I like that I'm just
Have you heard the live version?
They say it with a plum. Not the best, guys.
Have you heard the live version of Faggot?
Yes.
Now, what's amazing about that is I'm going to go ahead and say it, and then whenever we do the episode, the YouTube filter is going to edit out what I say.
But no guarantees on this one.
On the live episode, he's like, hey, you guys don't like that you made fun of is at your girlfriend's house right now, fucking her in the ass.
Yes.
And I remember that's when I was like, turn this trash off. Because that was back when I was in my good Christian boy phase. And like, no way. There's no way I'm listening to that and somebody finding out about it. And Joe's like, no, it's fine. It's great. Some of my worst decisions start with Joe saying that. And, yeah, they throw that term around like it's like nothing at all. Like
it's cotton candy.
Like it's cotton candy. Exactly. They are. I've never, and we talked about Cannibal Corpse already. I've just never run into a band that is so shameless about what they do that they don't even consider. And maybe it's that they do consider it. I don't know if it's we're just going to say what we say and hopefully we get away with it.
One of the things in this album, and it gets overused, but I think they use it right. And inside the liner notes for this record was that famous Lenny Bruce quote about that it's the suppression of words that give them its power and its bite. And then in the record, they do say, if you're listening to this, you need to take that fucking tongue and put it directly into your cheek. But the other thing is that anything that's pejorative, they generally point at themselves.
True.
It's never aimed at anybody else, generally. I think that's what takes a lot of the venom out of it, is that they're using words that usually hold other people down and applying it to themselves in such a way that you're like, what?
I don't know if they could get away with it now.
No, I don't think so either. I think after this well, no, because when we get to the next one, it also they rely heavily on retard. But I think If is the most pushed away from doing that because they never got big enough that they had a whole bunch of that they never got to Eminem or Marilyn Manson status where people were taking a look at the words that they were saying and trying to use it against them like a weapon. Instead they were kind of underground. They had a rabid fan base. They still do, to my understanding. I'm still a fan. But they never really had that mainstream crossover, and they never necessarily made anybody do anything that they had to quote unquote answer for.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I do think that over time perceptions have changed a lot on things. And I mean very recently, within the last 3 years. Because I mean the last Mindless record was 2013?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a good 5 years ago, almost 6 now. Mm-hmm. And when people say things to justify horrible things, they say, oh, it was a different time. And right. It's weird to say it was a different time so recently, but I totally get it. Because I mean, Korn on their first album, everybody calls a total fucking classic, except for some people. And
hey man,
they
never wanted to listen to it.
They had a song called "Faggot" on their first album, and
right,
it was a term that was pretty much synonymous with music for a very long time in the 90s and early 2000s. So
you like music?
Yeah.
And you don't dress like us? Well, that's an instant you're this.
Right. Well, it's like what you were talking about the goth club and all that stuff. Even if you tried to be goth, Matt, you never would have been goth enough.
No. No way.
It didn't matter. Even though all those people were, fucking trying to meet an image anyway. They were trying to be nonconformist by conforming to what they thought was cool.
Exactly.
And,
don't conform, but also the outfits are bondage pants, Doc Martens.
I think I'm going to disagree. I think that they could say whatever the fuck they want to today and could absolutely get away with it for the same reason like we would talked about with South Park. Is the fact that it is if they're really going to point fingers, it's mostly at themselves, and if they're going to point it at anybody else, it's at everybody else, literally everyone. Mm-hmm. And so they're smart about it. I think these guys are way more intelligent than I guess what the lyrics could lead on, because it's humorous, and I think that humor is what allows them to say things that other people could not. And I think if it got into the mainstream media, I think that they are savvy enough that they could use it to their advantage, just like how Matt and Trey from South Park did.
I think you're exactly correct. Mindless Self Indulgence never got called out because they're in their own universe. If you come in here and you don't get the joke, it's your fault.
See, I think that's true if you're a 30-something. Because I think that South Park and that whole 90s humor, because South Park is still very 90s humor, it's aimed at guys our age. It's not necessarily aimed at the 20-somethings.
I don't know who the modern South Park fan is. I mean, I still watch it, but I don't know if they've gained the new demographics.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's, there's people that think of South Park as a classic show, but that hasn't aged very well. Whereas somebody our age is like, well, yeah, it's a classic show, but you have to understand it was new and exciting. It was like The Simpsons was for our parents. Like it pushed the line just the right way. But it seems like, and again, this isn't social commentary discussion, but, I think that I stand by my original statement. I don't think that they would be able to do this in 2018. Like, maybe they could if only their demographic heard it.
You see, that's where I'm again going to disagree with the South Park thing with millennials, and 20-somethings are,
well,
making
we're millennials.
Well, you might be. I'm not.
Jeff's is in his late 60s, so.
Yep.
I'm a Gen Xer, guys. So.
Yeah, so am I. So I get it. It's almost like South Park is the guilty pleasure. It's the one time where they actually don't have to act like they're offended. Because in a lot of instances, they're not truly offended. They just are offended because they feel like they're supposed to be because that's what's expected of them. And whenever they watch South Park, they're like, okay, yeah, nobody else is around. I can watch this and I can actually laugh about this shit. I think if Mindless comes out with a new album next week, per se, I think that 20-somethings could listen to that if they were fans of the band prior and say, okay, yeah, it's still funny. It's still completely ridiculous and off color because that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
South Park established themselves and then transitioned into pop culture. The Simpsons did that too. And the one that started it all, in most people's eyes, is Family Guy. So South Park created their own universe of, if you watch us, we're going to make fun of you. If you're not okay with that, you shouldn't be watching us.
Yeah, they were completely unapologetic from the get-go, and I think MSI is the exact same way.
And that's why MSI has their own little universe. They kind of created their own world, where if you're going to listen to us, then you know that we're going to make fun of ourselves.
And everything else. And that's the reason why I think if they came out with a new album, and like I said, next week, I think they could still get away with it. Even if they are not as quote-unquote established as a South Park or a Family Guy.
I'll have to take a listen because little Jimmy Urine, a.k.a. James Uringer, just came out with his solo record.
Oh, did he?
So, Yep. So I'll
have to check it out, too. I didn't realize that was out.
I'll take your guys' word for it. I just need
Dan, you'll rebel to anything.
That's the next record, baby.
It's true.
We're messing with the pros with these segues. This record's a real step forward for them in terms of songwriting and quality of the record. This is the first record that's on Metropolis, which was a huge goth industrial label. Like, they had everybody or distributed everybody. Like, from V&V Nation to name an obscure goth industrial band, they probably did it.
They, because Mindless never actually signed to a label, they always, gave permission to release for labels. Like, they shopped them to labels, but they didn't ever sign the band to a label.
It was just distribution.
Right. Which is really smart. Because you own it all.
Keep their rights.
Yeah, you license to your record label versus actually signing with them. So then nobody can come to be like, dude, you can't say retard on your record, and I think that might have been a lot of the motivation behind it, because a band like this isn't going to be like, oh, okay, we're going to stop doing what we're doing and start making pop hits.
Right. Exactly. Well, I think this one starts with Shut Me Up, which is probably in their top 5. It's one of my favorite songs by them. It is very short, very concise, but it really transcends for them. I think it's one of the songs that even people who don't like Mindless tend to like Shut Me Up, because it's a pretty direct pop song with their usual sounds. The rest of the record, I mean, I definitely think this one's top heavy. Shut Me Up, 1989, straight to video. I'm okay with You'll Rebel to Anything. Their cover of Tom Sawyer, though, is a must skip.
Yes, it is.
So can I ask you this question? Has Jenny heard this cover of Tom Sawyer?
I will never play this for her.
Because you don't want to get a black eye.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say they're still dropping the N-word on this album, too, because I think that it's two hookers and an 8-ball.
Thank you, Geoff, for finally mentioning it. Remember what I said earlier about hanging out with a guy named Brian and taking the wrong drugs?
Yeah, I think You'll Rebel to Anything's a good song. What Do They Know's good. Stupid Motherfucker's good. Two Hookers and 8-Ball. I mean, is MSI good?
Yes.
Prom is
MSI
very
good.
skippable. And after this, the rest is all bullshit. I mean, come on. They know who they are. I love that about them. But yeah, this is much more concise. I think the US release was like 10 songs. There's tons of versions online. I think there's a Japanese version that has and I think that's the one that's streaming. So I think that's like 15 songs or something. But this one, it was pretty damn straight ahead. And I liked it from the jump, but that Tom Sawyer cover is awful.
I liked that it was only 24 minutes long. That's the version I listened to.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Japanese version is actually an additional 9 songs.
But I will say this.
Which is quite literally double the length.
They are 10 times the songwriters than they were on Tight. Like,
I would agree
this
completely.
This did not give me nightmares. Tom Sawyer cover notwithstanding. This didn't make me want to kill people. And I thought that they had finally really carved out a sound that they could have taken further. I don't think they were ever destined for mainstream success at any point in the band. But
Right.
if there was a moment where they were close to it, it was right here. I think this satisfied band expectations while still making them marketable to a newer audience.
And they had been through a lot. I mean, they lost Vanessa Whitey in the meantime, and this is the first album with Lindsay. And there's 5 years between this and Frankenstein Girls, with only really a live record and an EP before it. So I think they were kind of just dealing with getting off of Atlantic and everything that they had with Atlantic, getting that contract fulfilled. And yeah, this is a much more accessible record. If we were to ever do an MSI record on Roach Koach, this is the one I would ask to do. I think I would skip everything else other than this because I know that I would only have one chance to get an MSI record on. It's the least weird, but it's still plenty weird.
I'm not like 100% comfortable listening to it most of the time, but it's so weird too. But I still never know what they're going to do next. And that frightens me. And it's the fact that the vocals aren't extreme that makes it even creepier for me. Because I'm dealing with a true psychopath here. You know what I mean? It's not because with heavy bands, it's like with a death metal band, he just wants to sound tough. Like he's just trying to offend his mom with what he's singing about. But I don't get that from this because we've talked about that a lot in recent episodes. How we'll read the lyrics to a band and be like, "This was just to piss off his mom,"
right?
You know, that this is to piss off the universe. This is, it's music that's made so carefully because it is more carefully constructed here. But it's to offend people but attract them at the same time. And that's really difficult to do.
Yeah, it's like a car crash or a train wreck. It's like you can't look away, and that's what makes it
look
great.
away from it, and it stays with you. Like I said, my soul is permanently stained by some of this stuff, and I'm like, I'm not easily offended. Like, I get it. I get what the demographic is. I get what the point was. But when I take it all in just as itself, like my expectations totally aside, I'm just left baffled by, like, who is this for? Like,
It's for everybody.
it's for everybody, but it's for fucking no one. Like, at the same time, it's a little much, and I think it's a good sign that this band is still pissing me off this many records in.
Yeah.
You know, like,
No,
they succeeded 100%.
Yeah. Mission accomplished, right?
Right. Like, I can do nothing but just clap my hands, you know, like, holy shit, guys, you fucking did it again.
And it's wild. It's wild to kind of take a look at. They took a look at nerd culture as, like, I remember it, because I think there is a huge toxic nerd culture that is unspoken of, but does exist. You know, that's just like, you don't like this and you're an idiot and you're the worst human being. And it's like, well, aren't we just talking about something that we just liked when we were kids? But this was the stuff that the way that they address it is in a way that I'm like, oh, that's what I love about talking about the Power Glove with somebody who remembers how fucking shitty the Power Glove is.
It's so bad.
Where I don't have to build on hype or expectation. Yeah, the Power Glove. It's so bad.
The Wizard. Oh my God.
The Wizard. But, like, to be able to connect with those moments are how I can connect with MSI and how they treat popular culture. It isn't built on a we're cooler than you, or I'm the tastemaker or the holder of the ultimate opinion of something.
Are they trolling the trolls before trolling was a thing?
It's very possible. They have a self-awareness that we've talked about that not a lot of bands have. And self-awareness can lead you to do things that would make other people angry, but they're doing it because they don't care.
I think I'm understanding where the Tom Sawyer cover came from. Somebody somewhere was talking about how Rush is the greatest band ever. And then Jimmy Huron just says, you know what? I'm fucking sick of hearing everybody tell me how great Rush is. You want us to play Rush? Here you go. Nobody wanted that.
Nobody wanted that.
But
If
now
they
that it exists...
If they covered Freebird, I wouldn't be surprised.
I would love to hear anybody in that band play the complicated solo work at the end of Freebird.
It would be programmed, so it wouldn't be that hard.
It would be all on keyboards. It would piss me off so much. And I think I'm upset because, like, that's what I'm supposed to be, the fucking... I'm supposed to be the one that pissed me off and that pissed people off, but, like, now I'm getting pissed off listening to it. And it's
Who's
great.
the provocateur now?
Right, it's great because I love being offended to a certain degree because it means I'm paying attention. Because, like, I could have listened to this and just been like, I don't know, man, it's a bunch of electronic garbage noise. Episode over. Great episode, guys. You know, but
We
like,
did it.
yeah, which is pretty much what we did with the whole Mushroom Head episode. But, like, it
Tough
was,
listens.
yeah, that was rough.
Oh, yeah.
This is a lot better than that. I'll give it that. And, like, it is. Joe had to turn around and look at me for a second. He's like, holy shit.
He's not joking.
Shot fired. But, like, I mean, but Mushroom Head was doing all of it to try to be serious. And that's not what MSI is doing here. There's nothing serious about it. And my only real complaint is that I have no emotional connection to it. But I'm getting angry, which I guess is an emotion. And they're connecting with me in a way that a band has never really connected with me. Am I going to listen to it after this episode? You bet your ass that I will not. But I understand what the appeal is. And some of these songs are going to stay with me. And I think that in that case, they've succeeded far more than I would have ever expected.
When we started talking about Roach Koach at the beginning, and I said, like, here we are 120 some odd episodes later, and I don't like everything we listen to, but I understand it. You just said that much more eloquently. But that's it. Where there's a certain band that we just listened to that might have the letters I, C, and P in it.
Oh, shit.
Oh, God.
Oh, shit.
Which has been very missable in my life. And it has been something that I have tried to avoid in the same way and same vein that you've avoided MSI. And upon listening to it, it is still not for me. It's not supposed to be for me, and I'm okay with that. But I got the appeal in a way that I never got before. And I don't think I would have been able to give it 20 years ago, right? Where it was like, if you heard this in 99, you're like, or with them, it would be like, great, another carnival song about dismemberment. I'm good.
Yay.
You know?
Yeah.
But here I am, and it's like, oh, you know what? This is for somebody who came from a rough home. This came from somebody who's looking for that type of escape. And I'm not saying that MSI is trying to give escapism that way, but I think they're much more culturally savvy than people ever gave them credit for. Plus, they're just very fun live.
You think it's one of those situations where the smart kid in the room, everybody expects him to do something that they perceive as great, and then he just goes home and plays this little simple thing on a piano. Well, that's all you did? Yeah. Why is that all you did? And he gets why it's that simple, and that's part of the joke, is that the people around him don't understand that he is actually tuned into what's going on. And Mindless is kind of a version of that. They get the culture to a point where what they're doing is their form of mockery. And everybody else expects it to be something far more offensive than it actually is. And it can be offensive, but remember what I said earlier about it being their own little world. You don't get it if you are offended.
Well, it's like the ICP thing. It was literally one of those, like, it's the exact same sort of, I want to say it's almost the same fan base, but can't verify that.
Well, they did open for ICP.
I could see their shit fitting very well on ICP's label and all of that, but that's just
psychopathic. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I get it. Like we interviewed Twisted on John's podcast, which I was very uncomfortable with. And then it turned out to be okay. And then, it's weird that I've got all these weird reservations, but like Matt was saying, we're almost at episode 100. Like, we've been doing this shit for a long time, and it's hard to not hear the appeal at this point, because when I'm listening to these albums and I'm like reviewing or whatever, and I take notes and all that stuff, it's all very, like, I'm literally trying to find the best thing out of it that I can find, even if I hate it. And, I think that with MSI, it was very apparent that there was a lot of passion put into this project, and that's what I'm latched onto 100% is the passion. They believe in everything they're doing, whether I like it or not. I would like to believe that I live in a world where people make an album and they're like, well, I wonder what Dan from Discography Discussion thinks about this. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there someday. But, this is not for me, but I totally get the people that it's there for. Yep. And I guess we need to move on, because we're...
Yep.
What if we move on?
If we were to move on to if
very much follows the typesetting of You'll Rebel to Anything. It feels very much like Carbon Copy's rough, but like Never Wanted to Dance is another song very similar to Shut Me Up.
Yeah.
Evening Wear, same ideas. Lights Out, Prescription, not my favorites. Issues is at least a fun take on the touring world, same as Get It Up. Revenge is probably one of the more interesting songs on the record for me. I think it's an older song that they've kind of done a couple times before. It's been on live records, it's been on EPs, but they finally did it the best. And then, again, it gets a little squishy in the second half. There's some good songs. I mean, I like the whole thing, but the top half is, if I'm going to re-listen to it, probably where I'm going to spend the most time.
Yeah, and that's actually, for the general population, they spent most of their time on this album. This actually made it into the top 30 on the U.S. charts. Period. Not like Heat Seekers or anything like that. Straight up general U.S. Yeah, they made it to number 27, which that's why I had to look that up because I was like, that can't be right.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, but it's all on. I'm guarantee it was all on the back of Never Wanted to Dance because I think that's probably their most popular song that they've done.
I just think somebody in 2008 listened to it once and said, "This kind of sounds like Jack White. Put that on the radio."
This is on the radio?
Yes.
Never Wanted to Dance. Yeah, that was all over the radio.
Yeah,
dude.
I mean, I guess I could see that, but I don't know, man. We're kind of approaching like a Slayer situation here. It's all the same shit every time. There, you see minor progression, and so like, because I agree with Matt. I think this sounds just like You'll Rebel to Anything. Like almost not the exact same, but very much in the same vein. Like if somebody came to me and said they recorded both of these albums in one big session, I would believe that 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, they did the Mudvayne thing where Mudvayne recorded their last two albums in the same session and just broke them up. I feel like it's the same thing, but there can be something to be said for consistency, especially when the band's this weird. Like, and that's where I think that's where the Slayer comparison dies, because like Slayer shit all sounds the same. MSI stuff sounds like MSI, but doesn't sound the same.
I can see that.
You know, and that's because their whole game is diversity. You never know what they're going to do 1 minute to the next minute.
Yeah, I can't imagine Slayer in the middle of fucking a girl in the middle of their song saying, "Please stop talking about your ex-boyfriend."
Right, yeah. Probably not. They'd probably say a bunch of shit about blood. But, you know, because they fucking, if anybody loves blood, man, you thought it was Dracula, it's Slayer. So, you know. But yeah, like, I think it's very much in the same vein, but I think there's something to be said about listening to your fans and really being mindful of what people expect from your records, because I don't care how zany or crazy of a band you are, you're still kind of like you're an established thing now, so people are going to come into it with certain expectations, and I think those expectations were met, which is really interesting this late into a band's career. Like I said, we've done like how many discographies now, Joe? Like 92, 93?
You can say 93.
93 discographies. And the trend that I see is bands get to like album 5 and they're like, fuck you, we're going to do whatever we want.
Or fuck you, we're out of ideas. Or fuck you, we don't love each other anymore.
Right, but MSI was like, fuck you from the very first minute of the first record. So,
Right.
You know, but I think it's very admirable that they stuck with what their fans expected throughout their career. And I don't hear a lot of experimental bands because I very much consider them an experimental band, that they haven't gone completely off the deep end yet. And you can look at that two ways. You can either say they're stifled creatively, or they just give a shit about like selling the records to the fans that they do have.
And I think that is the perfect segue into their last full length, which is How I Learned to Stop Giving a Shit and Love Mindless Self Indulgence.
That's righty to get.
I mean, that should have been the title of Frankenstein Girls for me. How did I learn? I just listened to this.
But this is the album they kickstarted. And this is the album that their fans helped them make. And I think it follows exactly what you said. Like this is the one that they earned with everything that they did. And if it's the last one, it kind of makes sense. Like I don't know how many more legs that band has. Like I think with this record, they've played their cards, and it's either like they're going to come back and do something completely different to piss everybody off, which isn't beyond them by a long shot, or they're just going to be done. And if they were done, I think they went out on a high note.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, they definitely, like, this record, again, I don't think really pushes them creatively. But again, when the fans are fucking paying for it, you know, like,
Right.
there has to be that element of that perfect mixture of offensiveness, but also just straight out, oh my God, what are they going to do next? But,
Right.
I mean, I do think the only thing negative I will say that's not just like, this is all shit, don't listen to it, is...
You said that earlier.
I did say that at the very first
Yes, you
album.
did.
But I will say that they have stifled creatively with the last 3 of their output. It's all 100% consistent, but that can also be a problem if you're like me and you're an unpleasable fan of music, because I don't think that the last 3 records sound different enough from each other to justify that experimental tag. Like, I still think they're crazy, and I think you don't necessarily know what they're going to do from one second to the other, but, like, they're not going outside of the sound that they established.
Yeah, if you want the experimental side, listen to their side project, The Left Rights.
I'm not going
That's
to, but explain.
Goddamn nightmare. You know everything that you didn't like about Tight?
Yeah.
Let's make it 17 more songs at least.
Oh,
Oh,
fuck.
excellent.
Oh, my
and
God.
then let's make the long songs even shorter, and let's make a great deal of them just about poop.
I need to,
Okay,
like,
I'm
I
in.
really need to establish a
jokes are
safe
great.
word on this podcast.
I will say this. Witness, love the vocals.
Yes.
Fantastic. I didn't realize that because they're super polished on that. I was not expecting that. You know,
Like, he's a way better singer than
than what
on Tight.
Well, yeah, he's a lot better singer than he lets on. That's what Witness let me know.
And I don't want to jump in front of you, Geoff, but here I go. I didn't expect this to be a modern record recorded by Mindless Self Indulgence when it came out. I expected more of the same. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was way more polished than pretty much anything else had done.
It doesn't sound that different.
I said polished. I didn't say
Polished,
different.
yeah. So, like, it's a slightly shinier version of
It's a shiny turd.
If, right? Like, it's just...
I don't know. I loved it. I had so much fun listening to this discography, and now I'm enjoying it even more just to know how much pain it put Dan through listening to it. That's even better.
Jeff's been trying to get back at me because Geoff took some time off of the podcast for about a month and a half or so.
Yeah, I
And,
had some crazy shit going on. I couldn't
He
help it.
comes back and he's like, all right, I'm ready to ease back into this podcast. And I was like, great, we're doing Cannibal Corpse next week. Get cracking on those 14 albums.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is outside of the Barnes era of Cannibal Corpse, I loved it.
Yeah, he ended up actually really loving it.
Oh
so.
yeah, because I
awesome.
I listened to. I was a big fan back in the day of Gallery of Suicide. So, and I was like, oh shit, like the rest of their stuff is like that. Fantastic.
I really like this record. Because I like them and I now like that style. And I think you're right, Geoff, that it is it's the finished version of the previous 3 records, or the previous 2 records, excuse me. So it's everything that they learned through the last 2 cycles kind of come to a head on this one. I think Witness is a great song. I think Fuck Machine is exactly a song that I would expect from them. It Gets Worse is a song that I would expect from them. I Want to Be Black at this point is not their strongest song. Hey Tomorrow, I hate the chorus on Hey Tomorrow, fuck you and your friend yesterday. It's just an unnecessary chant, but there's a lot of really good stuff on this.
It's fun.
It's a fun record.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself. I like the fact that, they didn't take themselves so seriously, which is great because, we listen to a lot of, Scandinavian metal bands that are like,
We as in Geoff.
yeah, if you don't like it, either I'm going to kill you or I'm going to kill myself because I'm so hurt by it. So it's nice knowing like, okay, yeah, fuck you and fuck me and fuck everybody and let's just have some fun. And it was great. It was so much. It was so light. I guess is the best way to put it. It after all the heavy listening we have to do on this on this podcast with some of the band's discographies. It was enjoyable to just have some fun, and I think that's what scared that's what scared the shit out of Dan so much.
They're all delicious, sugary bowls of cereal. Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome to why I love this band so much. It's the exact opposite of what I normally listen to. When you've hit the wall and you don't know what to listen to get yourself out of whatever rut you're in, you reach for Mindless.
Well, that's kind of how I am with. I do that a lot with Weird Al. I used to do it an awful lot back in the day, not as much now. But that used to be like my go-to. I'm like, okay, like I'm stuck in a rut, and all I'm doing is listening to all this, grungy, Seattleite, you should kill yourself music. Like, well, how do you break it up? Throw some Weird Al in, some My Baloney. They're like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is great.
You know how I break it up, Geoff? Play that record backwards.
Message for the suckers.
I got nothing.
Yeah,
That's
I know
all right.
you don't.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me do this with you guys.
Final thoughts on Mindless Self Indulgence. Dan, you get to go first.
I think after sitting down and listening to all this shit in one night, because again, I'm not going to lie, I put it off. I sat there looking at my stereo, because whenever I do a lot of these listens, I really try not to be distracted. Like, it'd be really easy to put on like a racing video game or something like that. And the only conclusion I could come to is that, like, it sounds like if you took a band like 21 Pilots and locked them in a barn with the Joker for like a year, and he forced them to make an album at knife point. That's Mindless Self Indulgence, like 100%. And depending on what kind of person you are, that's not a bad thing. For me, I'm gonna jump back into the loving arms of Death Grind after this. That's not true. We're in industrial December, so like I gotta listen to a bunch of Fear Factory albums after this, but which requires like way more thought than I probably am willing to put into it. But
yeah, I gave you a bowl of candy, and I just said finish it.
Right. Yeah, finish this bowl of candy, Dan. I know you can do it. And now I have diabetes, and my soul is stained. So thank you so much, Matt.
You're welcome, buddy.
For this side street. And that's all I got to say about that.
Geoff, what about you?
Well, I will have to say this, since Dan said, play a racing video game while listening to this, now it made me think of Test Drive. And Junkie XL did that soundtrack.
Oh, yes, he did.
So I'm like, okay, now I got to go listen to some Junkie XL when I get home. But no, I had so much, like I said earlier, I had a blast listening to this. They don't take themselves seriously. It's just good fun. And the fact that I mean good fun is the fact that it's it's good and wrong. And I like it because it's that. They don't take themselves seriously, and they flash that middle finger to everybody, including themselves, and they don't take anything overly seriously, and they're intelligent in the process about it, and that's why I thought it was a fantastic listen. I'm glad you picked these guys out, Matt. Seriously, good job. I had so much fun.
Matt,
thank you. What a treat to talk about one of my favorite bands that I never expect anybody to like. This is a band I always feel like I have to apologize for in a weird way, where I'm just like, yeah, they're their own thing. And that is probably the highest compliment you can pay any band, is to be like, they're their own thing. And I love them for it. I had the privilege of having dinner with them on the Frankenstein Girls tour when they were opening up for the Lunachicks, and we went to a Greek restaurant, and Jimmy was the only one who was a little bit aloof. He's the lead singer, but Steve Rye and Vanessa YT and Kitty were very nice to me and my friend, or my friend and myself, and the night of the show, or at the show, Steve comes up to me, he's like, oh God, something disagreed with me. I got the bubble guts. But they still went out there and they destroyed it. I mean, their live show is something that really needed to be seen at that time because they were in their 20s and nothing hurt. So like,
Well said.
He used to jump. I watched him climb a stack of amps and just jump from it and land in a barrel roll. Steve Rye used to smoke a cigarette and Jimmy smoke a cigarette and put it out in Steve's tongue. Like they did all the stunts, and they are one of my favorites because of it. So thank you so much for letting me talk about this band, and I hope I didn't ruin everyone's day.
Nope, just Dan's.
It's okay. I live in a state of perpetual disappointment, so it's fine.
We did it again.
You definitely didn't ruin my day. In fact, you're welcome in this studio anytime you want to listen to Mindless Self Indulgence. If you want to hear the definition of the phrase mindless self-indulgence, you should listen to this band. It's the exact opposite of what you expect. It is exactly what it wants to be, and if you don't get it, it's not for you. Also, if you want to piss off Dan, listen to it in the car after he listens to Glassjaw and say, payback is a bitch. Matt, what's your album of the week?
And so I've been listening to... So I need family-friendly stuff, but I hate kids' music. So I have been listening to the soundtrack to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid by Mr. Burt Bacharach.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Raindrops keep falling on my head, but it's one of those things that I can put it on. I know it's not going to be... I know it's light. I don't mind it, and it's like, okay, cool. It's just on there in the background. But it's not like, we're little kids having little kids songs. That'll come with enough time.
Geoff, what about you?
InnerPartySystem. They're self-titled.
Who is this?
Oh, shame on you. It's good. Check out the song Don't Stop, but you have to watch the music video. Fantastic.
Well, I'm getting prepped up for episode 100.
Oh, I know what that means.
So I've been listening to Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child by Norma Jean.
That's a hint, everybody.
It's not a hint, dude. I made it like super public on Twitter.
Well, since it is Industrial December, I've been listening to The Union Underground, An Education in Rebellion.
You'll rebel to anything, dude.
Payback's a bitch, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Matt, what's going on in Gabber Media?
Yeah, well, we have quite a few shows that we celebrate a lot of things with. Check out Roach Koach. That is Roach Koach and Coach with a K. If you want to hear us create that new metal canon, always check out Matters. Matters with Matt's Naas and Rose. And we have Transmissions from the Dark Side. We have completed watching every episode of seminal 80s horror anthology Tales from the Dark Side. We reported it back to you. We've watched Creepshow 1 and 2 and the Tales from the Dark Side movie, and we're doing some best ofs, and then we are going straight to the TV syndicated horror anthology Monsters next. So check that out. Everything at gabbermedia.com.
And on that note, this has been episode 94 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks.
We did it. We did it, guys. Oh my God. I just want to thank everybody who lost.
Oh my God. That's great.
Matt's going to come back and talk about the left rights one day when Dan doesn't want to show up.
Give me your money.
Gotta go.